Ever noticed how people disappear when you need them most and suddenly reappear when you're rising? That's not luck, it's a pattern. Still think friendship matters when power's on the table? Stop pretending the world is fair. There's a code the strong live by, and you're about to learn it, but only if you stay until the end. People don't just disappear. They leave when they no longer need you. You ever notice how some friends vanish right after they get what they want? Or how certain people only show up when they need something? That's not coincidence, that's pattern. Most people don't walk away randomly. They disappear the moment you're no longer useful, or worse, when your growth starts to threaten them. It's harsh, but it's reality. We were taught that emotional bonds are sacred, that friendship means loyalty. But in the real world, bonds are disposable. What looks like abandonment is often just a mask falling off, interest disguised as care. Machiavelli didn't romanticize human nature. He exposed it. Men are ungrateful, deceitful, selfish, and fake. And while they need you, they'll play nice. But your value to them expires, and when it does, they move on without guilt. That's the unwritten rule of power. If you're still expecting unconditional loyalty in a world ruled by ambition, you're playing the wrong game. Friendship in power games is nothing more than a strategic alliance with an expiration date. The faster you accept this, the less you'll suffer betrayal. Because the worst betrayal doesn't come from others, it comes from your own illusion. You think you're valued. In reality, you're being tolerated. You think you're essential, but you're just being used. And once your use fades, they won't even say goodbye. They'll just go silent. No explanation, no closure, just gone. And you sit there wondering what you did wrong, when all you really did was trust too much. This is the pain of those who haven't yet understood human nature. Expecting loyalty in a competitive world is like expecting mercy in war. You don't walk into a knife fight carrying flowers. And if you truly want power, the first rule you must learn is this: you're alone. Alone, yes, but not vulnerable. Because being alone when you have your two is not weakness. It's freedom, it's control. When you rely on your skill, your emotional discipline, your clarity, you become untouchable. Not because no one will try to bring you down, but because no one will succeed. You start watching more and talking less. You begin to see who's acting out of interest and who's acting out of fear. That's when you start winning. Because the moment you stop trusting blindly, you start leveraging. The ones who believe friendship matters more than strategy are always caught off guard, always the ones getting hurt, the ones who don't know what happened. But those who think like Machiavelli, those who read the game, they don't need closure, they need distance. Silence becomes your sword. Observation becomes your shield. Want to stop being disappointed? Then stop expecting loyalty. Expect self-interest, because that's what you're going to get. And once you accept that, you can use it to your advantage. Remember, no one is your friend in the game of power, and that's not a tragedy. That's an edge, if you know how to play. Show too much, and you lose before the game even starts. Ever noticed how the best poker players don't talk much? They don't smile excessively, don't make grand gestures, don't explain themselves. They just watch, quiet, focused, reading everyone at the table. Because the one who talks too much gives away his hand, and in the power game, that's a death sentence. The biggest mistake of the naive is thinking they need to show everything to be accepted, to explain every move, to justify every action, to prove they're nice, loyal, trustworthy. But here's what happens. They become predictable. And the moment you're predictable, you're vulnerable. Machiavelli made this clear. It's not enough to be good, you must appear good. But appearing good doesn't mean exposing everything. It means controlling what others see. Because whoever controls perception controls the game. You may have your discipline, strategy, composure. But if you wear that on your sleeve, you become a target. The real secret? The more valuable you are, the less you should reveal. True power moves in silence. Insecure people over-explain themselves. They try to prove their worth with words. But real power doesn't talk. It radiates. Through posture, through presence, through a calm that makes others nervous because they can't figure you out. Want to make people uncomfortable? Say less. Leave things unsaid. Never reveal your full position. Strategic silence is more intimidating than 1,000 speeches. People fear what they can't read, and they love to destroy what they can predict. The open book always gets torn apart. If everyone can understand your moves, you're easy to corner, easy to manipulate, easy to dismiss. So here's the rule. Don't explain yourself. Don't defend yourself. Don't show your entire strategy. Be polite, but unreadable. Be present, but mysterious. Learn to show just enough to remain respected, but never enough to be fully known. And never forget this. When you're too obviously virtuous, you become a magnet for parasites. Because goodness that's easy to spot becomes weakness in their eyes. And where weakness is seen, attack follows. Want respect? Appear strong. Appear busy. Appear unreachable. Even if you're not. Because in the power game, appearance often outweighs reality. Here's the key. Don't reveal your hand. Keep your cards close. Always leave space for doubt, because doubt breeds respect, and silence breeds control. You don't need to be understood. You need to be feared. And that begins with mastering strategic invisibility.
The first to get offended is always the weakest. Have you noticed that some people get offended at the slightest thing? They take everything personally, interpret silence as disdain, firmness as aggression, distance as coldness. That person is almost always the weakest in the room. Because those with emotional strength aren't shaken by little things. Those with power choose what affects them. We live in a generation that calls boundaries arrogance and firmness rudeness. A generation that idolizes selective empathy, but despises any sign of strength. So if you start standing up for yourself, valuing yourself, imposing your presence, get ready. They will call you cold, insensitive, toxic. But Machiavelli already said, men forget more quickly the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. In other words, what truly bothers people is not your lack of affection. It's your ability to be independent of theirs. People don't want you to be emotional, they want you to be controllable. That's why offense is the perfect tool for social manipulation. It makes you feel guilty for not pleasing. It pressures your conscience to go back to being a servant. But the man who understands the game knows being misunderstood is part of the process. Because only those who bow to everyone are loved by all. Worse, most who get offended easily are just hiding one thing: fear. Fear of not being able to control you, fear of not being able to read you, fear of not being able to use you. And when they realize they can't put you on an emotional leash, their only weapon is moral attack. They accuse you of being cold, calculating, difficult, simply because you dared to set boundaries. Want a practical tip? Watch who gets offended by your silence. Who gets upset when you don't respond immediately? Who feels insecure when you show you have your own life. Those are the people who wanted some control over you. And when they see they don't, they freak out. Offense, in this context, is weakness disguised as morality. Here's a golden rule. The more power you develop, the more people will get offended by your existence, because power annoys the insecure, especially when it's silent, discreet, and unshakable. So, next time someone gets offended by your directness, your strategic coldness, or your clarity of purpose, don't apologize. Understand, you just touched the ego of someone too weak to accept their own irrelevance. You don't need to adjust to those who get offended easily. You need to learn to identify these people and walk away wisely. True respect is born from discomfort. When your presence silences the room, you're on the right path.
The power of saying no. Have you noticed how, in everyday life, saying no is one of the most powerful yet hardest acts? Whether at work, turning down toxic conversations, or rejecting tempting offers, refusing firmly can change everything. People who say yes to everything become slaves to others' expectations, while those who know how to say no control the game. This skill of refusal draws an invisible line between the weak and the strong, the manipulable and the autonomous. In the power game, no is the tool to create your own space and command respect. Those who don't know how to say no become easy prey, a lamb ready to be devoured by wolves. Machiavelli already pointed out that power lies in controlling not only others, but mainly yourself. And saying no is the ultimate control. It's the boundary you impose on your life and on those who try to use you. In everyday life, many get lost trying to please and be liked. The truth is, being indispensable and respected is very different from being loved by everyone. On the battlefield of power, love is fleeting. Respect lasts. Those who say no clearly and firmly demonstrate virtù, the active ability to shape their own fate and surroundings, without fear, guilt, or needing to justify every decision. Want a practical step? Start saying no to things that drain your time and energy without return. Refuse what doesn't serve your goals. Notice the reactions: discomfort, manipulation attempts, social pressure. That's a sign you're on the right path. Saying no isn't rudeness, it's strategy. It protects your inner fortress, your emotional stronghold. Remember, wolves in sheep's clothing only attack those who let themselves be fooled by false kindness.
The art of cultivating respect, not affection. Think about that neighbor everyone likes, but no one takes seriously when decisions or leadership come up. Now, compare that to the boss who might not be loved, but commands respect through clarity and firmness. In the power game, respect is always more valuable than affection. In daily life, we seek to be loved, craving easy applause and constant validation. But affection is a fragile, volatile currency, often manipulated. Respect, however, comes from consistency, competence, and coherence. It's the solid foundation that supports lasting influence. Machiavelli didn't believe kindness was the basis of power, but the public perception that sustains it. In other words, it's better to appear honest, firm, and fair than to actually be. The real world leaves no room for innocence. Most people want to be loved and end up losing control because they depend on others' love. Those who seek respect understand true admiration comes from competence and clear boundaries. Want a practical step? Start acting consistently with your values and goals. Speak firmly. Keep your promises. Set clear boundaries.
Don't expect applause, but watch how the environment changes when you stop being friendly and start being respected. Power lies in being a presence that disturbs, challenges, and imposes limits without hesitation. It's not about cruelty, but clarity. Remember, being loved is good, but being respected is indispensable. Self-sufficiency as an indestructible fortress. Think about someone facing daily storms, traffic, demands, unexpected problems. For those who rely on others, everything becomes chaos. But for the self-sufficient, these storms just pass. They don't shake their core. True strength in the power game comes from self-sufficiency. It's an invisible armor made of virtue, sharp skills, emotional discipline, and self-confidence. Those who depend on others to feel strong are always at the mercy of luck and change. Machiavelli already said that fortuna is volatile and unpredictable, so trusting external factors is like building castles on sand. Only virtue, the active ability to control your destiny, provides real resilience. In everyday life, observe. Self-sufficient people don't seek applause, don't crave approval, and don't panic in adversity. They act, solve, adapt. Want a practical step? Invest in your skills, cultivate emotional discipline, and work on your self-confidence daily. Challenge yourself to depend less on the environment and more on yourself. Strengthen your internal foundation, and the external world will lose its power to knock you down.
Strategic alliances are built on play to win, not to fall in love. Think about successful work teams. They aren't built on friendships, but on clear goals and shared responsibilities. Success comes from efficiency, not emotion. In the power game, forming alliances is necessary but must be understood as temporary and utilitarian. The real strategy lies in defining clear interests, timelines, and knowing when to walk away without sentimentality. Machiavelli showed that alliances last only while beneficial. When no longer useful, they must be discarded coldly. This is not cruelty, but intelligence. In everyday life, observe professional relationships, business partnerships, and even friendships that shift when opportunities arise. The lesson is clear. Don't fool yourself expecting eternal loyalty. Want a practical step? When forming an alliance, define what you gain, for how long, and the rules for ending it. Be direct and don't hesitate to walk away when necessary. Your mission is to win the game, not create eternal bonds. Be cold, be strategic. The harsh truth, the illusion of loyalty, and the power of solitude. Imagine someone waiting for a bus at a deserted stop, caught in the rain, unsure if it will ever come. The wait is lonely and uncertain. Power is just like that, a solitary road where loyalty is a mirage. The greatest betrayal in the power game is being naive with yourself, believing loyalty will exist when everything points to calculation. Machiavelli warns us that human nature is fickle, selfish, and driven by self-interest. Accepting solitude at the top is the first step to ruling with clarity. Those who seek approval in true friendship and power are doomed to lose. In everyday life, observe leaders surrounded by flatterers and false friends. They fall because they confuse affection with interest. Clarity demands you recognize that being alone is a condition, not a punishment. Want a practical step? Cultivate emotional autonomy. Accept strategic solitude and strengthen your virtue so no one can bring you down. In the end, those who master power know solitude is not emptiness, but a fortress.